This afternoon. Those spirit-filled, prayer-fueled women whose courage sent us to new heights and foreign shores, into the public square to teach and to engage in discourse about war and peace, compassion, and justice. We begin by calling into this Jubilee circle our first founders, those frontier women and their priestly guide who set us on our 200-year journey. From little Loretto to establish Loretto on this holy hill in 1824.
I've thought a lot about what an upbringing it must have been for our early sisters to move from Little Loretto to St. Stephen Farm, because they moved from what had been their home for 12 years, from where they had established a school, and from where they had sent out 4 other foundations. Their mentor, Father Merrick's, died in August of 1824. The move here was in November of 1824. And while this hill was prime property, it was in a very run-down condition. The circumstances surrounding their move, as you will hear, were very difficult. Sister Isabella Clark was the Superior General at that time, elected in 1824. She was one of 3 Clark sisters. Sister Rosalia and Eleanor were the others. And some of you may remember that Sister Eleanor was the founding mother of Florissant, Missouri, whom we celebrated in 1997. I've tried to capture in this poem what I think may have been Isabella Clark's feelings about this move. In the poem, I mentioned Mary, Anne, and Claire. They were the only 3 of the 6 original Sisters of Loretto who were still living in 1824. Mary Rhodes, Anne Havern, and Claire Morgan. The 2 headnotes to the poem, which I will now read, are crucial to its theme. The first headnote is from the memoirs of Sister Isabella Clarke, quoted in May's Life of Father Merricks. She wrote, "After the death of Reverend Father Merricks, the Right Reverend Bishop Flaget of this diocese came to Loretto, accompanied by Reverend Guy Chabras, whom he installed in Father Merricks' place as our ecclesiastical superior. Being thus placed in full possession of his house and its contents, he, for some reason, burned all of Reverend Merricks' writings." The second headnote is from the book Humble Beginnings, A History of St. Charles by Joseph Mudd. At this time, Father Chabras directed the sisters to move out of Little Loretto into the place of St. Stephen that Bishop Flaget had given them. Once this was done, they burned the little Motherhouse, lest it be put to worldly purposes. The poem is Reflections of Isabella Clarke on the sisters' transfer from Little Loretto to St. Stephen's Farm, November 1824, and its title is Upon This Hill. No eager journey this autumn of our grief, but knew the priest had ordered we should move. Our place a trade for this. I looked to Anne and Mary. Christina had passed on. Obey. A cloud of sorrow in their eyes, a shoulder's stoic shrug. I knew the flames that had consumed our father's scripts still burned their hearts, and mine as well. But be obedient and faithful, his words from Belgium 4 years ago, now seared again our shattered souls. And we said yes to Loretto's dark uprooting to this hill. What else? Perhaps too young at 24, yet leadership I wore like shawl of strength, unfolded only when alone, and I could weep resentment at commanded move. But I was orderly with all the plans, asking Holy Marys and Gethsemane to help the packing up before December might ice the roads to match our frozen hearts. Alone, I wept. Yet publicly, I prayed that beauty soon would blossom on this hill. 11 miles we came, our wagon loads of bedding, books, the classroom slates, the pots and kettles, sturdy chairs he made, the dishes, everything of home for those 12 years. The chapel cloths and chalice, sacrament of love on solemn cart, with pupils near as faithful guards. I could not bear to see the sisters' tears as we turned out the gate, so walked ahead and prayed that soon a gentle Christ would transform pain upon this hill. Though high and coveted, St. Stephen's Farm was bleak, unfit for school and livelihood, with Baden back to France 5 years ago, till we could dig and fence, clean out, and patch dilapidated walls to race the chill December winds. The priest engaged a crew to build in early spring. As we began to settle in, dear Claire brought saplings from the woods to green the barren drive, a way to plant our broken hearts upon this hill. A duty still remained, so bittersweet, I held my shawl of leadership as shield, protecting almost everyone but Anne and Claire and Mary, stalwarts from the start, who traced with me processional of tears, returning to the cabins they had built. We torched the chapel, convent, school, and watched till ashes turned blue-white. No plunder there. Oh, could the way a wildfire leaps for miles be sudden grace, a flame within our hearts, from embers there to life upon this hill.
Thank you so much, Cecily. And now we have Mary and Christina, the other early ones, and Isabella in our midst. So now we call to our side others of the brave founders who also knew so well that moving on to something new means leaving precious good behind. Some of the women's names we mention in our song were featured in the Loretto magazine stories of our journey to Jubilee. Again, follow Maria. Oh, Loretto, come and stand with us. So now you consider the many Loretto women we haven't called out. Founders from earliest times to the present moment, including those living founders of Loretto Works who aren't here today. Write some of these names on ribbons, and we have ribbon collectors. If you will call out the name, your ribbon will be picked up and put on our tree of life. Stand with
Patrick Ware,
Francis Bechtold, Virginia Williams,
Jane Marie Richardson, and Magna Murray.
Particularly those people who led in classrooms and in the community room, and those who led us out into the public square, the leaders among us, and those who are visionaries in their leadership, leading us to brand new places. Some of them have led us in entirely new ways and down unfamiliar paths. Some led urgently, and sometimes they led us delightfully. Sometimes they've led us against our grain. They've brought us wider possibilities in our midst. Before you name those names, listen to this remembrance of a light-hearted moment of leadership that Mary Ann Cunningham writes about.
I was trying to think of somebody to shout out, but so I lost my place. In honor of Mary Lou Tobin, stargazer. Orion, see? And Taurus, there. She pointed into frigid skies. In icy fields, behind the old brick school, we huddled, steaming breath, and clutched black woolen shawls against the night. Pick out the Pleiades, see little jewels of fire. Squinting, we'd cross 1,000,000 miles of heaven into new worlds, discerning our way. Familiar sky marks focusing our lives, illuminating paths that twist and screen the goal. Without star maps, the boldest pioneer might fear that first step into darkness.
Let us call into our midst those wise women, past and present, who, like Mary Luke, saw with fresh eyes and cast a bright light on new paths. Let us call on Loretto's leaders and visionaries to light our Jubilee circle with their wisdom.
Jacqueline.
We're going to leave this lovely remembrance tree in the hallway out here by the chapel bell rope. And we invite you to keep adding names to it and give it a little push. It makes a nice maypole. How about that? So now our call this morning to our Loretto friends and our call this afternoon to our founders, leaders, and visionaries has made our Jubilee Circle very large and very loving. Let us conclude this part of the Jubilee celebration with a rousing rendition of just the chorus for Sing With Your Life. And Maria, lead us. Sing